Hi, I am Sarah with Lebanon Now. I am here in part of our Girl Power series. I am going to be talking to Michaela today.
Yes.
This episode is a little bit different than our usual series. Today we are discussing mental health. A lot of us women struggle with that. It's not something that we feel very open to talk about, and sometimes not even with our closest friends and family. So we are here today to open up and talk about it.
Yeah.
This series and sponsor is sponsored by Covell and Tees Tees and Kim Breeden with Shelter Insurance and June and Beyond. And we thank you so much. So Michaela.
Yes.
How are you today?
I'm doing so great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We got some
Good.
sunshine.
Oh my gosh. Praise God, huh?
Yeah.
I was really needing the rain was just,
It was bringing us all down.
we needed it, but oh my goodness, the sunshine feels so good. We had the windows open this morning, the 90s country blaring. My poor son, they don't have school today, so he was woken up with the sounds of vacuums and come on, bud, it's time to clean. So
Nice.
he did have to work a little bit today.
My kids, I was out to work before my daughter even got out of bed. So
Oh, to be a child again, huh?
to be a teenager, yeah for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're here today to talk about you.
Yeah.
Talk about your story and your struggles. Your story really hit home with me. I have mental health issues in my family and a family member that's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So tell me a little bit about your early years and
How deep do we want to go?
that's totally up to you, my dear.
Okay.
We can talk for 10 minutes or we can talk for an hour.
Oh, I'm a certified yapper, so we've got this. Okay, so I grew up. I was born in Bolivar, Missouri. My mom was a single mom already when she had me. To my older brother Mitchell, he actually has Asperger's, and so he is quite the interesting, quirky, just wonderful human being. So it was just the three of us for a while. My mother eventually met my stepdad, Brian, that's dad. So if you ever hear me say dad, that's my dad. He definitely earned that title. When I was probably 2 or 3, we moved to Northwest Missouri. That is where my dad is from. It's where all of my dad's side of the family is, our friends, and I spent my childhood there. And I really loved it there. We had a farm. My mom was in social work. My dad is and still is a welder. So we were busy. We just seemed kind of like just your normal. You think of like an early 2000s sitcom fan. Like we were lower middle class, but we were, I don't know, like we just from the outside looking in just looked normal and happy and loving and but like most families, doors close, and then behind those doors, there's other things going on. And so probably by the age of, I guess I'd have been 4. This is an important detail. Sorry to my sister. My sister was born when I was about 4. And so there was 3 of us kids, and then my parents in the home. Like I said, we lived on a farm. We were just very busy people. My dad, I think, did the best with us that he knew how, that he could, kind of what he was shown. They're very traditional farmer, blue collar. Emotions were kind of foreign to that side of the family.
Absolutely.
And then my mom's side of the family, we are nothing but social workers and therapists and things like that. So we were, at least on my mom's side, a little bit more in tune with our emotions. And so it was kind of an awkward place to be as a child because, dad is strong and teaching you like, hey, we have work to do first and then we're going to be too busy for emotions later kind of thing.
I think most men, sadly enough, are raised like that.
Right. And that's not talked about enough.
No.
It really isn't.
No.
And then with my mom, she was dealing with her own things emotionally. I won't go too much into that because it's not necessarily my story to tell.
Yeah.
So from dad, we weren't necessarily allowed to. And then I don't think my mom had the capacity, the space within herself to kind of help her children. And that's not me trying to talk negatively about my mom. It's just the fact of the situation.
Yeah, there's only so much one person can do.
Right. You can only take in so much when you're already dealing with all of these things on your own. And so it was just a really awkward place to be as a child. I am the middle child, but I feel like I almost stepped into that older sibling role. Like I said, my older brother has Asperger's, and he was actually nonverbal until he hit the first grade. So once I started talking, he started talking.
Yeah.
And so he and I were very, very close growing up. My sister and I, we're close now that we're adults, but growing up, we just didn't have the same bond that my brother and I did.
Yeah.
But like I said, looking back, I felt like we had a really normal family until I started going over to other people's families and realized that my family did not look the same way that their family did. I didn't know that my parents slamming a 30 rack a night was not normal. I didn't realize that having absolute just ragers every weekend with random people coming over, I didn't realize that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
And I loved it, though. Like, we had friends and family come over all the time, and it was just fun to see, all of these adults acting crazy and kind of silly because,
Yeah.
I didn't know that, I didn't know that it was any other way to be.
Yeah.
And so my siblings and I, we had a lot of fun. It was fun until I realized that this wasn't appropriate for children. And I was probably second or third grade when I started to realize that, which is my son's age now, which is kind of crazy to think about the way that my life was.
Absolutely.
And how his life is now. And so my parents, like I said, were heavy drinkers. My dad, I don't like the term functioning alcoholic because are you really functioning at your full capacity?
Absolutely not.
No. But my dad was very successful, worked very hard, was able to maintain relationships, ran the farm. My mom, I think she did it a lot to mask some of the things that was going on just from her childhood and my parents' marriage. It was not healthy at all. I think that at first they really did love each other. They really did want to make it work. And I think still to this day they might have love for each other. It just sometimes it's not meant to be. But he was drinking, I think, to have fun, and she was drinking to kind of mask whatever hurt was going on. And so my dad was an angry drunk. My mom was a crying drunk. And I don't know if you've been around the both of them.
Yeah, I have.
But together, it's very tumultuous.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of screaming. And I felt very protective over my siblings. And I felt this need to save them. And I think that call was coming from the inside of the house. I so desperately wanted to be taken out of that situation. I love my parents. I do. And I know they didn't intend any harm, but they had caused a lot of harm up until then. I remember, like I said, my son's in the second grade. I remember getting both my siblings up, ready for school, hair, teeth brushed, on the bus, making sure homework's done, coming home, doing my farm chores, making sure the house is clean and dinner is cooked and things like that. And so I had to grow up really early, and I didn't feel like I was able to tell anybody about this. One, because I didn't realize how just not okay that was. Didn't feel comfortable going to either of my parents. It's hard to go to somebody that's kind of causing the issue, especially when you're 8 years old. You don't know how
hard as an adult. I can't imagine.
Exactly. And so I also I don't know why I thought my parents would get in trouble because I didn't really know anything about it then. But I just didn't want anybody to be angry with my parents or be mad at me or whatever. So I just held on to it. But I started to grow very close to my siblings, but also very resentful at the same time. Like, why do you get to be a kid and I don't? And it's not like anybody forced me to step up. It's not like anybody said, Michaela, you have to do these things. I just knew I want to be taken care of, and I'm not. My siblings, I know they want to be taken care of too, and they're not. Somebody's got to do it. And so it kind of created a weird dynamic between my siblings and I. My brother very much was okay with me setting, the scenario, I guess.
Yeah.
He liked the schedule. He liked the structure. My sister, on the other hand, was very much, She was my bratty little sister. Did not want to listen to her older sister. You're not my mom, all of these things. And that hurt because I was like, of course I'm not your mom, but I'm being your mom right now. And so, I didn't want to be bossy, but I was like, if I don't take care of you, you're not going to have dinner tonight. So please listen to me. Yeah. So eventually the fighting got bad enough that I was tired of it. I know my parents were so tired. They didn't want to get a divorce and split up the family. I get that. But I finally told my mom, I said, listen, this is not good for you or dad, and it's absolutely not good for us kids. I said, you need to divorce dad, or I'm thinking about it now, chuckling to myself because I'm speaking like I'm so grown and I have the authority to make these decisions. But I flat out told my mom, I said, I'm going to take my siblings and we're going to move in with my grandparents. I was like, we cannot continue to do this. I get that you love dad, but this isn't healthy. So they ended up getting a divorce. It was a very nasty divorce. We were shielded from a lot of it. And I do respect the way that my parents tried to handle it. They very much tried to keep us kids out of it. They didn't do a very good job at succeeding, but the attempt was there. So this was my freshman year of high school that my parents split. So that was already a really awkward time.
Oh, yeah.
And so my brother and I moved in full time with my mom. I'm from Savannah, Missouri, so I'm going to have some high school friends that are going to watch this, and they're going to go, yeah, go Savages. But we moved into the country club area, and my dad stayed at our very, rural little farmhouse. And my brother and I did not go visit. My sister, since that is her biological father, she did go back and forth on the weekends, sometimes during the week. But I think the divorce kind of triggered something in my mom that I hadn't necessarily seen before. She was not kind to my father. She did whatever she could to make all of this as difficult as she possibly could. And I know that was out of hurt. It wasn't out of, that's not who she was.
Yeah.
She was just very hurt.
Yeah.
And so my dad, I think, tried to stay very neutral in all of it, which I have a lot of respect for. That was a very difficult place for him to be in as a father. He didn't want his kids taken away, but he knew if he pushed too much, then it was just a very awkward position for him to be in. But my mom was very vocal about her dislike of my father and would just constantly talk to my brother and I, and sometimes even my sister, about all of the bad things that he used to do behind closed doors, and was very much trying to turn us children against my father, and it worked. I get emotional at this, sorry.
That's okay.
Because there's a lot of guilt from that, Because I love my dad. And if he sees this, he's going to be like, ugh, love, But I do love you, Dad. But we eventually moved to, my brother and my mother and I moved to Hermitage, Missouri. It would have been my sophomore year. And my sister stayed with my dad and his girlfriend. And that was the first time that my siblings and I had been split up. And so that was hard. And moving to a new school was hard. I went from Savannah High School is not a very big high school. I think I had maybe 180 kids in my graduating class.
Yeah.
But I went from that to 20 kids in my class at Hermitage.
Wow.
So there was quite a difference. When we got to Hermitage, I was excited because my grandma and my grandpa on my mom's side. My grandma's my bestie. Love her. Dee Griff, she's the best. I got to shout her out because she's so good. She's an angel on this earth. But I was so happy. We spent summers down here, so I was just so happy to finally, meet kids my age down here, and just for a new start. So we started at Hermitage, and I'm still friends with a lot of people from Hermitage. I can't say that it was a horrible experience by any means, but it was not what I thought it was going to be. Up until this time, I had never, I was a good kid. Mm-hmm. I was ornery. I was loud, but I was never doing anything that could get me into trouble. I was very careful in that regard. But in a town that small, there's only a couple of things that you can do, and most of them are not legal at the age of 14 or 15.
Correct.
So I got very involved very quickly. I played basketball. I played softball. I was in FFA. Was in music class. And I just really like to be involved. I like community. I like to be around people. I like to talk. And so I feel like I fit in really quickly and well.
Yeah.
And so when you fit in, you get invited to go places, and you don't want to say no, even though you know better.
Of course.
Because you're the new kid and you want to fit in, and there's nothing else to do. So I started drinking heavily. Like, heavily.
And this is 14, 15?
14, 15 years old. Yeah. Thought I was grown.
Didn't we all?
But I thought it was okay because everybody was doing it, you know. Mm-hmm. Our parents knew that we were doing it, and they didn't say anything because they did the same thing. They're like, oh, you know, it's just part of being that age kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was really struggling at the time. So there was several occasions where I left, and, you know, I would just say, bye, Mom, I'm going. I wouldn't lie to her. I told her where I was going. You know, I was at least safe in that aspect where I told her, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going to be. And she would just, you know, she was still heavy in her addiction. And so she would just kind of wave me like, hey, you know, call me if you need me kind of thing. I was so lucky. I was in so many just bad situations, and I just got so lucky that I wasn't harmed in any way during those. There was several instances where it could have been very, very bad.
And what year is this?
This is 2012.
Okay.
2012. So, yes. Yep, 2012. And so we're winding down to the end of my sophomore year, and I'm reflecting and thinking to myself and talking with my granny, and I was like, this is not where I want my life to go. I don't want to be like this. And so it was hard and it was scary, but I decided to move back to Savannah, and I lived with my dad. The poor guy was now a single father of 2 girls. Mm-hmm. And
so your brother stayed with your mom?
My brother always stayed with my mother. My brother and my dad my dad loves my brother. Yeah. But it's very hard with people who have autism or Asperger's to form relationships and continue to work and grow in those relationships. Mm-hmm. And that was hard for my dad to accept. Mm-hmm. I feel like, I almost feel like my dad saw it as his own personal failure in some way. Like, I did something wrong as a parent, and this is why my son can't do this. Although my brother can do a million things that I wish I could do.
Yes.
I don't think my dad understood, didn't understand Mitchell in a way that, you know, my mom and this side of the family did. So Mitchell stayed with my mom and did never go back to my dad. I think in the last, 10 years, my dad and Mitchell have seen each other a handful of times. Yeah. And it's not that they don't love each other. It's just that I don't think that relationship was ever stewarded in the way that it was with my sister and I, kind of thing. At no fault to either of them. But 2012, I was back up with my dad, and I was excited because my dad wasn't, you know, depressed like my mom was, and he was fun, and we went and did things, and I drove him home drunk from the bar, and you know, it was just, we'd bale hay and we'd farm and we'd drink a couple beers on the tailgate at the end of the day, and I was one of Dad's buddies, and that felt good. Yeah, it felt good. I had my dad back, kind of thing, and so was that an appropriate way to bond with my father? No, absolutely it was not. But we were finally bonding, and I think I so desperately needed that.
That's how I bonded with my father at that
you know
age.
What? Come on.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, let's have a couple beers. But Dad, that's, looking back now and what I do for work, I'm like,
I know.
Dad, come on.
But at that age, we were young, and we wanted our parent. And so we took the opportunity that we got.
Whatever I could.
And at the age of 15, sitting back and drinking a beer with your dad is so cool.
So cool. It was disgusting.
And then when you're older, you're like, wow, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I don't know why I kept doing it, because Busch Light is not
Yeah, no.
It's not good.
No.
It's not good.
No, I was the Coors Light.
My dad is a Coors Light now, so I don't even like any of that. But maybe that's why. It's just put a rotten taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
But I got, again, really involved in school. I played basketball. I was in three different choirs. I was working on our farm, and then I was a farm hand on a dairy farm for a long time.
Wow.
Was a straight A student, FFA, you name it, I was doing it. I feel like, looking back now that I'm an adult, that was me searching for a place for me to belong. Mm-hmm. Now that I can look back and just kind of, step back and look at your life, you realize that there was a reason you were doing things. I was so busy all the time. My dad finally tried to settle down again, which my dad is just not the settle down kind of guy, so I don't know why he kept doing it. But he had met a woman that he had grown up with, and she, again, I don't want this to turn into some, I'm never going to mention her name just because it's not fair to her. She's not even a part of our lives anymore.
Absolutely.
But she had her own substance misuse issues, and hers came in the form of chemical substances rather than alcohol, and she brought that into my home. She also had 4 children that she also brought into our home, and basically used my dad for a paycheck.
Life support.
Mm-hmm. And I could tell that's what it was, and he couldn't see that. Mm-hmm. And so my sister, since she's younger, she very much tried, the kids were more her age. And so she hit it off with the oldest daughter. And then here I am again, taking care of siblings.
Lots more.
One of the youngest being 2.
Wow.
On top of everything that I already had. And I became angry.
Yeah, you're like, I did not sign up for this.
And if she was like a good stepmom, if she was a good person, and I don't mind being helpful at all. I enjoy being helpful. But I could just tell. I could tell that she was just in it for dad's money, essentially. And so, she would steal from my sister and I. She ended up there. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyways, it was not good. So I was, at this point, this was a several year long relationship. I was 17. We're fast forwarding here. 17. And it had gotten so bad that my sister ended up moving back. She moved with my mom. And so it was my senior year. I was by myself. And I told my dad, I said, you need to kick her out or I am leaving. And he ultimately chose his girlfriend. So at age 17, I became homeless. I had a lot of really cool people in my life that I always had a house over my head, but it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
So my best friend, Mandy, she brought extra lunches to school to make sure I was fed, snacks that I could take home because bills weren't being paid and I was going without. Mm-hmm. And so I lived with her and her dad for a long time. We call Scotty Boy is her dad. We love him, Scott Curran. And I ended up, again, wanting a place to fit in.
Of course.
I kind of started to turn into my mom and was like, you know what? I need a man to take care of me. So before I even graduated high school, I was doing online classes now. My principal let me so I could graduate and go to prom and be with my classmates that I had always gone to school with. I needed half a credit to graduate my senior year. So I did that credit online so I could still graduate from Savannah. But I had met a boy and started to live with him. And this was my first experience with a narcissistic spouse. And I was 17. I didn't know any better. And so I ended up finding my way back in Hermitage because of this boy. Mm-hmm. Kind of living in his apartment, bouncing in between my grandparents a little bit, but mm-hmm. mostly with him. And so I'm not going to get too, because I don't know what ages watch this show. I'm going to try to keep it as PG as I can.
Of course.
But
I think typically adults watch.
Right. I guess trigger warning. There was there was a lot of abuse that went on. There was domestic assault, there was sexual assault, there was emotional abuse. And at 17, that was a lot. So I thought that's what love was supposed to be like. I don't believe my dad ever put hands on my mom or anything to that nature. I think he was maybe emotionally neglectful and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched arguments and just disruption growing up that I thought that was normal and that's what I had to look forward to. So I was like, well, I found it early, at least I'll have, I already know what this is like. It just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And by that summer, so I'd graduated high school at this point, and that summer, I came back to the apartment and found him. Also, he was cheating on me. And so I grabbed my things and I left. And I had a 98 Ford Taurus that I was, pedal to the metal. I was trying to get out of there as fast as I could. And I am headed to my grandparents' house, and I see his truck pop over a hill. And he wrecked my car off the road and hooked a chain on it and drug it back to his apartment. So at that point, I was fearing for my life. So I was stuck in his apartment for probably 3 weeks after that. I was scared to leave, to even go to the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
And so finally, my grandma called me and was like, "Are you alive?" And I was like, "I need help. Can you come get me?" And of course, he's not going to, stand up to my grandparents or something like that, because they narcissists like to
he can push around you,
but the second somebody else comes around.
Yep.
So this is not the first instance of my grandparents rescuing me throughout my life. So they are the most incredible people. But I was able to get out of that relationship, and I don't know if you've ever been in a narcissistic relationship, but you leave one and it's not long after that you fall into another.
Correct.
And that is when I met my now ex-husband. And what I'm about to go into in regards to him was past. We have a fantastic co-parenting relationship now. I love his wife. They just recently had a baby back in December. And I love their child like he's my own. So this is just truly, we were young. This is how...
I get it's going to prove that growth happens.
Exactly.
So
and more, and
that's wonderful.
Not just me, with everybody else too.
Yeah.
So
if you choose that path.
Yeah. And so, sorry, Austin, I am going to share our story. I kind of debated back and forth, but I've already spoken with him and his wife about, just not going into too much detail, but I do have some consent to talk about our lives. But I was 18. I was out of this crazy relationship, and I was free and was about to go off to Northwest Missouri State. And I was excited. I was living life. So I was at a friend of mine's apartment, and she was like, "Hey, we invited some boys over." And I was like, "Oh, no, I just wanted to be us tonight." Well, not long after that, Austin, my ex-husband, and several of his buddies walked through the door, and it was almost like a instantaneous. And he was funny, and he was just, he was comfortable to be around.
Yeah.
And we moved very quickly. After about 3 months of knowing each other, we got pregnant. And at 18, not knowing any better, but I had been a mom since I was 8.
Yeah.
So me getting pregnant young was, I don't think, a surprise to anyone in my family. Anyways.
Nothing you didn't already know how to do.
I wasn't super shocked, and I already knew how babies got here. So by partaking in that, I already knew what that would be. And so I think that we were both excited, but we were scared. We did what we thought was best. We got married. He was military at the time, so I left up north again and found my way back here again. And we lived at Fort Leonard Wood for a few months, and then he was deployed to South Korea. When he left, I was about 6 or 7 months pregnant. So I moved in with my grandparents, again, rescuing me again. And I went into labor in September of 2017. He was not able to get a Red Cross sponsorship home. So I gave birth, not by myself. I had my ex-mother-in-law, my mom, and my grandma with me. But I didn't have my husband, and I wanted my husband.
Yeah.
And so he watched me deliver our son in a South Korean train station. He was trying to get home. So imagine, I'm glad he had headphones on. Could you imagine just
That's
walking by him,
wild.
and he's watching, some lady give birth. But he got to come home a few days after Leighton was born, and it was just so incredible to have.
What's your son's name?
His name's Leighton.
Leighton.
We call him LJ.
Love
so,
that.
yeah, autonomous Jameson, LL Cool J. He prefers LJ, but, we have our nicknames. But he finished out his year rotation in Korea and came home. And I just knew that something had happened while he was in Korea. And I get that he was lonely. Mm-hmm. And was missing out on his son, but he was also young too. I was 18, but Austin was 22, which is older than I am, but it was still young.
Still kids.
Still young. Okay, so there was some infidelity that went on while he was deployed, and he came home, and we had a long conversation about what happened there is what happened. We're here now, mm-hmm. and are we going to make this work for our son or not? Mm-hmm. And I think we had the best intentions with that, but it should have come from a place of, are we going to make this work for ourselves? Because if we made it work for ourselves, then
it
byproduct would have been our son. Right.
Yeah.
We both love our son, right? We just love him so much. But like I said, I think Austin was going through his own things, and the infidelity did not stop. And so I feel like a lot of women are going to relate to this, because you don't ever want to end your marriage, and break up your family or separate it, even though you're not the reason that the family was broke up. So I did everything that I could to save it. I lost 60 pounds. I dyed my hair blonde. I was working out. I was, cooking and cleaning and just doing everything that I thought that I should be doing to save my marriage. I was like, clearly it's something that you're doing wrong, mm-hmm. for your husband to not come home at night. Or he would come home, but he wouldn't really be home. Mm-hmm. And so finally, after about 2 years of that, I was like, I don't deserve this. And I don't want my son growing up thinking that this is an okay way for him to treat a future spouse.
Absolutely.
So I filed for divorce. This was in 2019. So at that point, I am 21 years old, something like that. I filed for divorce in October, and then boom, January, COVID hit. So the courts were closed. And so our divorce was not finalized until that summer. But it was rocky, but I was just kind of at the point where I was done. Mm-hmm. I didn't care anymore. So there wasn't much arguing, because we were young. There wasn't anything to fight over.
Yeah, you're like, we're just done.
So we kind of fought over, scheduling times and things like this. But I'd say for the most part, our split was amicable.
Yeah.
I'd say compared to my parents, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I loved being a single mom. I loved having just unlimited access to my son, especially during COVID. Yeah. I was able to work from home. We went to the park every day. We were outside. We ate healthy. It was just great for our bodies and our minds. And then for me, recovering also. And it was a really good thing, because the bars were closed.
Yeah.
I couldn't party.
Nope.
But then they opened back up. And naturally, that's
Let's
where
go.
I went. So on the weekends that Leighton's dad had him, I was at Hopper's Pub in Waynesville every Friday, Saturday, and then on Sundays I was recovering. And I had so much fun. I'm not even going to lie. I had so much fun. Some of the best memories came out of that time period. Mm-hmm. But some of the most heartbreaking and traumatic experiences also came out of that time period. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of, looking back now, a lot of, I don't know if gratitude is the right word, that I can look back and, appreciate both sides.
I left my ex-husband in 2019.
Okay, I do remember this. I was like, oh, she and I have a lot in common.
In December.
Yes.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I was never one to drink, ever. My ex-husband didn't drink. But during COVID, I met somebody that drank. Therefore, it started becoming something that was in my house.
Yeah. And it's sneaky too.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it's a problem until it's a problem.
Until it's like, oh, wow,
I'm doing this every day.
Can't remember the last time I didn't go home after work and have 2 shots.
Exactly. And so I never kept alcohol in the house. I didn't have it in front of LJ because growing up, I hated seeing it in my house. So I was hyper vigilant about it in front of LJ. But when LJ wasn't around, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not mom right now. I'm Michaela.
Yeah.
And so, and I'd never been just Michaela before. And so I was into some really sticky situations, things I shouldn't have been in, shouldn't have been doing. But I was wildly successful at work. I had a lot of friends, a lot of good people in my life. So I didn't see anything wrong with it. My old director where I used to work in Waynesville used to joke on Friday meetings, end of the week. He's like, all right, well, I'll see you guys next Monday. If you're going to, wonder where Michaela is this weekend, she'll be at Hoppers, you'll know. And I'm like, And I thought it was funny, but now I'm like, that was probably him trying to say, hey, girl.
Hey, can we all know that every weekend you're sitting at the same bar?
Yeah, your supervisors are drunk. She'll be at the Hoppers. I just shake my head at myself sometimes. But I don't know. It was just fun. It was fun.
And I'm sure if you're like me, not only was it fun, and there were also some terrible things, but we learned so much on ourselves when you had that time.
I felt so good about myself for the first time in my life. I started working out with my friend Rob, and he was just so incredible about healing my relationship with food. And I mean, obviously, I started to gain weight because I, wasn't starving myself to, hopefully have my husband find me beautiful. So he'd stop, And so I gained weight, but it was healthy weight. Yeah. And that took a lot of Rob reminding me like, hey, this is what a normal human being is supposed to be consuming every day. We're working out heavily. You need to consume more so you're not starving yourself.
Absolutely, for sure.
So I was in some of the best physical shape of my life. I just had so many good friends at that time. But was in probably the darkest headspace that I had ever been in. And I was really struggling and didn't know anybody else in my life who was struggling the same way that I was. I was reckless. I had no impulse control. I was a single mom and spending like I was a billionaire. I remember one time I took out a $5,000 loan and spent it in one day. And I cannot even remember on what.
Ooh.
And as a single mom, when you already are, paycheck to paycheck, having to fit in a $200 loan payment every month.
It's impossible. It either doesn't get paid or it comes from another bill.
It was, and I struggled because of that. I started partaking in risky behaviors and again was I was using sex to find love. So it was just partaking in a lot of risky behaviors. I remember traveling to Nashville, Tennessee with the couple of people I just met a few weeks before. And I was like, yeah, let's go, I could stay up for days at a time. I was not sleeping. I just had so much energy. I could feel, obviously you can feel your heart beat, but I could feel my heart beat.
Yeah.
And I was just so productive, but in the worst way possible. I couldn't stop. I couldn't slow down. I was on the outside looking in. Oh, that girl, she's got it together. She's successful at work. She's, working out. She's a great mom. All of these things. And I don't think I added this, but I was a full-time student during all of that too.
Wow.
Yes. So my grandma, she was a therapist for many, 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 many years. Again, here she is saving my life again. She sat down with me one day and she goes, Mickey, I need to have a conversation with you. I don't know how this is going to go. Because I was also one of those people that's like, you can't tell me what's what because I know everything. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I think that you have bipolar disorder. And I was like, sorry, D. Griff, I'm not crazy. Don't know what gave you that idea. I'm going to ignore all of your expertise here and I'm under control. I got it. She didn't push it. She was
You're like, I'm
okay.
good.
Yeah, I was good. I felt great.
Yep.
And so I felt great until I didn't feel great.
Not realizing that you were just manic.
Oh, yes. And so I have bipolar 1. And so my manic episodes can last anywhere from weeks to months. And so I had hit a manic episode that was riding on probably month 5. And then I had met my now husband, Riley. So when he met me, I was fun and energetic, and I was hot, and I was
Wild
just,
child.
yeah, I was manic, so manic. And so when I wasn't manic, he was like, who is this? Who did I fall in love with? And while I was manic too, I was just irritable. I was so angry, or I got so angry so easily. And unfortunately took that out on him a lot. Riley and I fell in love very quickly. That is my soulmate, 100%. We met in April, and by July, I mean, we were just where one was, the other was. I mean, we were just inseparable. And so I don't even remember what had happened, but I went crazy. I mean, I went from being so incredibly manic, didn't even realize it was mania at the time, to so depressed that, like, putting clothes on hurt. Getting out of bed hurt. I was just paranoid, too, that, like, my self-worth was down the drain. I thought Riley, you know, because I was so back and forth, just hated my guts. And I took everything out on him. And none of this was his fault. You know, he was just vibing. He was, you know, he's just kind of happy to be here. And then all of a sudden, it was not so good to be here. So that was several months of my grandma finally being like, no, Michaela, like, let's get you tested. She's like, I already know what you have.
Yeah.
And then let's get you medicated. And I did not want medication. I was like, I'm not crazy. I can handle this by myself. Which, if somebody with bipolar disorder tells you I can handle this by myself, they cannot handle it by themselves.
No.
So I started on medication. And I think Riley and I both had this idea that it was just going to be a fix-all. And that we were going to go back to being how we were, and it was going to be fantastic. And unfortunately, medication is a stabilization. It is not a fix-all. And bipolar can be managed, but it cannot be fixed, unfortunately. So this was something that we were going to have to, if we were going to work, this was what we were going to have to navigate. But unfortunately, we were not exactly sure how or what we were going to do. I was still not being a good spouse at all. There's a lot of guilt that I still hold for how I treated Riley and some of our close friends during that time too. So ultimately, Riley made the decision that we needed to break up for the time being, and that was earth-shattering to me. I was like, great, I finally found a good one, and I ruined it.
I screwed it up.
I screwed it up, and I was already so depressed because I came out of the high manic and then straight down into depression, and there was no gradual. It was just boom into the gutter. And so we broke up, and that was for the first time in my life where I truly thought if I did not wake up, I'd be okay. And as a single mom, I'm like, man, you can't feel like that. But I did.
Yeah.
And so we had broken up, and this was, I mean, we were several weeks into our breakup at that point. And Leighton was at his dad's, and I tried to call Riley, and I tried to call Riley, and I tried to call Riley, and he wouldn't pick up, and I don't blame him. You know, I was crazy. And so that was my first attempt to take my life. And I woke up that next morning, and I was like, this isn't okay. So I told my grandma, and I don't know even how, but I got stabilized. I was doing okay. Riley, after I was stable, welcomed me back with open arms. He is the true definition of unconditional love. I mean, he is so gracious with me.
Good job, Riley.
Yeah, no kidding. Good job, Riley. it offers so much grace and just maturity when it comes to this. And he's just an incredible human being. And so I was stable and I felt happy and we were good. And so we decided to welcome our daughter into the world, Everly. And she was definitely our missing piece. It was the four of us now. It was Leighton and Riley and Everly and I. And we moved here to Lebanon in 2021. No, early 2022. Everly was born in July, so we moved here in 2022. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and Riley was still working. And life from the outside in looked really good. I had it all. I had an amazing, amazing husband.
Little picket white fence.
I had a beautiful home, nice cars, great, well-behaved kids. But I think a lot of other moms will relate. Postpartum depression is real. Postpartum rage is real. And you have that mixed with bipolar disorder. It was bad.
I'm assuming while you were pregnant, you also had to get off your daily meds?
I did not.
That's good.
And that is a conversation. So if anybody else is listening to this and you have a mental health issue that you're medicated for while pregnant, there are some medications that aren't considered as healthy as others. But I had a conversation with my doctor. I was not willing to jeopardize my mental health.
Yeah.
So I was on 300 milligrams of lamotrigine, which is an antipsychotic. So instead of the 300, we did try to taper it down to 150.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't working and because I could truly just stay home, I managed that.
Yeah.
I was okay.
That's good.
It wasn't until after I had Everly, I didn't immediately bump things back up because I was like, oh, I'm good at the 150s. Like, let's just kind of ride that out.
Yeah.
But it was bad. It was so bad. The depression mixed with being depressed and manic at the same time is a wild experience. Something that I would not wish on my worst enemy. The war that goes on inside your head.
Yeah.
Hating the fact that you're a mother, but loving it at the same time, I feel is not a isolated feeling. I feel like it is something that we don't talk about often, is that you can just utterly dislike being a parent.
I remember calling my sister in tears and saying, God did not intend me to be a mother. This is not something I was made to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until probably a year or so later when I got my mental health in check that I really realized how much I love being a mother.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's our brains just play so many tricks on us. Our brains are so complex, but so simple at the same time.
Yeah.
So I was really struggling, and I kept it to myself because I was like, girl, you finally have it all. Here you go again, like ruining it all over again because you can't get yourself under control. I didn't ever want to tell Riley, and it's, Riley loves to hear, my thoughts and he wants to help. But I was like, he's already busting his butt extra because I'm not working and
just mask.
Right. And that's exactly what I was doing. And so, I was like, maybe if I go back to work, maybe if I have a purpose. Well, being a mother is my number one purpose. But back then I was like, maybe if I get back into the community, maybe if I start doing things, I'll feel like myself again. And so I started working, and I was a little office assistant and enjoyed where I worked. And then that ship kind of sailed, and then I stopped working again, and then I started substitute teaching, and I loved it. I loved being able to take my son to school every day and just stay there and then take him home with me. And then that ship kind of sailed, and then I realized, girl, you're manic. You bounce from job to job to job. I'm still in school full-time, mind you.
Oh, my gosh.
I think I forget to add that. I'm still in school full-time.
Online?
Yes. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
With a very high GPA, I might add.
And 2 children.
And a husband who travels for work. Oh, I also had a foster child at that time too. We skipped a lot of chapters there. But yes, I had a foster child.
You literally had to be busy all the time.
Because if I stopped, my brain started again.
Your brain, you started thinking.
Yeah. So sometimes I tell my story and I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. Or, I forgot I had a foster kid that was just a traumatic, that's a whole nother conversation. That was just a mess. Yeah. But I ended up, finding the job that I'm in now, and I work from home. It's incredible. I get to help people. I'm in the mental health field and the substance use prevention field, and I feel like I just feel good. I feel stable.
So you tell me exactly what you do for work.
So I am not here affiliated with work whatsoever. I just have to put that out there.
Of course.
But I am a substance use and suicide prevention coordinator. I wear a lot of different hats with that title. I can offer different mental health and substance use trainings.
So that those people that call you can relate to what they're going through, which makes such a huge difference.
Yes, and sometimes it's hard to be a professional, Michaela, and not have them tell me something traumatic and be like, "Ugh, same girl."
Yeah.
But sometimes I get so angry that I have bipolar disorder, but sometimes I just say, thank you, God, because without it, I don't think I would have the empathy that I do, or the understanding, the connection that I'm able to have with some people.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older and I'm stable and I have a good wrap on things, I'm able to have some appreciation for something that is and can be so debilitating.
Being sick is lonely, and having an invisible disease or an invisible illness, it's lonely.
Yeah.
And when somebody connects with you on that level, even if it's just over the phone at that exact moment, that's something that could be exactly what that person needs at that exact moment.
And I'm so thankful for this job because, again, I have this yearning for community, and I don't know where that stems from exactly. Like I said, I'm not from here, but I love my community. I want to be involved. I want to help. We've only been here for I guess 4 years now, and I don't know. It's not, I think, a feeling of needing or wanting to belong. I think it might come from a scenario of where I didn't have that. I want to make sure others do.
I think you're a nurturer.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that is a personality trait that I do possess.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Like you just, if your cup is full, you want to pour into others.
Oh, I want to runneth over. Yeah. I think it's so important. I think it's better for just as a population. Sometimes we can just get so selfish. Like when we're good, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
But when you're good, you ought to share that goodness with somebody else.
I agree.
That way their goodness can share to somebody else. So, I don't know. It's just been a wild ride getting here.
So I have a question before we wrap this up.
Absolutely.
If you were able to go back to that 17-year-old Michaela, what advice would you give her now?
Ooh, girl, that was deep. I don't know if I'd give her any advice. I'd probably just give her a hug. Because now that I'm an adult and my frontal lobe is formed, logically I would say, wait until marriage or, stay away from this or this. But if I did that, I wouldn't have my son. And so I'm so thankful for those experiences. Do I wish some of them would have panned out a little bit differently? Yes. But without 17-year-old me making the decision she did, I wouldn't have my son. I wouldn't have a great co-parent, and his wife's incredible and their son is incredible. I may have not ever met Riley or had Everly. I'm thankful for 17-year-old me being silly and naive. And so I don't think I'd give her any advice. I think, honestly, I'd just give her a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that the 17-year-old versions of us could have really used those hugs.
Oh, my gosh, girl. Like bear hugs. They really could have. Yeah. Yeah.
I understand. I had one friend, he has now passed. His name was Lucas, and he was like, "Are you a big guy,
Yeah.
right?" And he's that one that every time you see, you're like, "You're going to give me this hug, and it is going
Yeah.
to erase every pain I've had for the past year."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that I say give hugs because I'm not, if you ask anybody that's remotely close to me, I do not like hugs.
Really?
I am not a physical touch girly.
I'm a hugger.
I am not. It's a wonder I've procreated 2 children because I really don't enjoy hugs, but I truly believe if I had just been hugged a little bit more,
Yeah.
there probably would have been some really significant differences in just who I became. So
I force hugs on my children
Yeah.
even still.
Yeah.
And
my children force hugs on me.
Yeah. Good.
I love them. They're so good with mommy. They're just, "Mommy, are you in the space for a hug?" And I'm like, "From you, always." Yes, I am.
Absolutely.
But they're so gentle about it. They're just awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I am really thankful that you came here to share your
Yeah,
story
thank
today
you.
with me and to share it with our viewers,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
I'm sure there will be plenty of viewers out there that will relate to you as
Yeah.
well. I think if you are a viewer and you relate and you have something that you want to say, comment on
Absolutely.
the video or send a personal message to Michaela or
Yeah,
I.
absolutely.
I think we both are mothers with mental illnesses and struggles with families, and we understand, and we are here to talk about it. And I guarantee most of the women in this community are here to talk about it as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And again, I also want to thank our sponsors for this segment, June and Beyond, Kim Breeden with Shelter Insurance, Covell and their fabulous coffee, and Tees Custom Apparel. We thank you guys so much, and we will see you on our next episode of Girl Power.
Thank you.
Thank you. This episode of Girl Power is brought to you by Covell, Flowers, Espresso, Bakery, and Gifts, Kim Breeden and the crew at Shelter Insurance, June and Beyond Women's Boutique, and Tees Custom Apparel. Thank you for being a proud sponsor of Girl Power.